Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our read-through of The Hero of Kendrickstone. Chapter 4, The Beast and Her Prey. You spend the next 3 months living out of the Blazing Swords Inn. The keeper of the establishment, a tough, stout woman named Frida, is more than happy to offer you a place to live, so long as you pay your rent on time. Her attitude makes it clear, if it wasn't already, that if you're going to live in Kendrickstone for any extended period of time, you're going to have to find some way to earn money. The path of a free spirit may lead to glory and riches in the future, but for now, you have to pay your rent until an opportunity actually presents itself. So you spend your daylight hours. You know what? We're a bard. We might as well do in-house poetry. I realize any of these might be able to raise other stats, but we're going to be the bardiest bard that ever barded. Call us Shakespeare. Kendrickstone is a city full of rich and highborn, all with their own pretensions to culture. It doesn't take you long to find a wealthy merchant family willing to hire you on as a full-time poet. Your job is simple enough. Write a few verses on whatever is in fashion and then perform it to them in front of family and their guests at dinner. Your employer gains a reputation for being a patron of the arts, while you get exposure and a few silvers with every performance. It is a job you are naturally suited for. Your first 3 performances go over well with your employer and their guests, but as your 4th, a rollicking tale of 3 moneylenders packed with clever sexual innuendo that gets you not only a loud round of applause, but also a much better offer of employment from one of the guests. By the end of the summer, your reputation as a poet and your wealth are growing fast. Awesome. Once the sun begins to sink low in the sky, you return from your day in the city to your lodgings. Like any large inn, the Blazing Sword has a variety of accommodations, from large, opulent chambers meant for wealthy merchants and nobles, to common rooms where a dozen laborers or petty craftsmen might sleep in a row of thin mattresses. The food is also based on your financial means. A rich resident can afford immense selections of expensive and delectable dishes, whereas the poor must satisfy themselves with black bread and sour ale. While it would be normally prudent to save as much money as you can, it might be wiser, as an adventurer, to live as well as you can afford instead. An adventurer who is well fed and comfortable is both happier and An adventurer who is well fed and comfortable is one who is healthier both mentally and physically, and that might have a considerable effect on your capabilities. In fact, living well might possibly save your life one day. Do you take the opportunity to buy convenience, or do you save the money? Wow, that's a huge jump. And oh my goodness. Okay, so how much money do we have? We have 142 gold. Do we want to spend half of it? We're in perfect health. You know what? Sure, we're not gonna do the high life. We're sure, but I don't like the idea. I said it before. I'm not the idea of a common room. Your room in the Blazing Sword may be small, but it's comfortable. There's enough space for a study bed and a desk, a brass chamber pot, and a small chest for all your belongings. Because you've spent enough money to rent a private room, Frida the innkeeper and her family take pains to treat you with respect beyond your station. As long as you continue to pay your rent on time, of course. Aside from the comfortable bed and a friendly smile from your landlady, you also have good, hearty meals to look forward to every day. While it's not the richest food you've ever had, a loaf of white bread and a bowl of hot spiced porridge, beef and onion stew, and occasionally game fowl or venison, washed down with a tankard of good brown ale, is more than enough to satisfy your admittedly rather rustic palate. Your living conditions are hardly opulent, but they're better than what you're used to, and that's more than good enough. The days do not end with your evening meal at the Blazing Sword's table. You generally have 2 or 3 hours of time to yourself before you retire to bed. How do you spend them? Legitimate question here. Let's just check our stats here. pretty eloquent. Do we get extra money? Or do we... we're living okay right now. Let's find some companionship, as the game calls it. Your goal is to seek attractive companionship to liven your evenings. In this, your way with words and natural sense of theatricality make you quite successful. Almost effortlessly, you're able to catch the attention of Kendrickstone's... Well, I suppose... Uh, eh. Indeed, your roguish charm and quick wit make you almost irresistible to the young women of the city. The question remains, though, how do you behave in such pursuits? We're not settling down with anybody. We're just fun, I guess. You have no intentions of settling down, but there are those among Kendrickstones, young and attractive, who don't objectify to a quick, mutually satisfying encounter. It's not long before word begins to spread. It turns out you have a knack for making your partners very happy. Oh, awesome. We are the most poetic, lovable bard in the entire area. One morning, as the heat of summer begins to give way to the first cool breezes of autumn, you walk into the main hall of the Blazing Sword to be greeted by a courier in familiar livery. He brings a message from Dame Mildred of Somercy, a knight you met on the road to Kendrickstone. The message is a summons to the night quarters, something about a dangerous but well-paying job. You answer the call almost immediately. After the monotony of the last few months, you will finally have a chance to go on a proper adventure. Good day, Isabel of Forester's Hollow, was it? Oh, that's totally not a chick's voice. Good day, Isabel of Forester's Hollow, was it? Dame Mildred says as you enter her sparse but spacious rooms. I've got something that might appeal to you. Interested in some adventuring work? You nod. The knight smiles and reaches into her fold of her doublet, then pulls out a letter of heavy parchment, sealed in red wax. An important matter has come up. She unfolds the letter, carefully prying the wax seal with her thumb, and shows you the contents. The writing is mechanical and nearly perfect, the calligraphy of an aristocrat. This letter comes from my mother, the Baroness of Somercy, Mildred explains as she folds the message back up. It tells me that she is in need of aid, the sort of aid that I think you might be suitable to provide. Your mind races. A genuine quest, the sort that once brought fame to the adventurers of old. You have so many questions. What's the problem? I guess that's step one. Dame Mildred takes a moment to look through the message again. My mother speaks of a beast terrorizing the farmers working on her furthest outlying holdings. She believes that it is a beast of razor claw, that is, a large forest predator, something in between a wolf and a hedgehog. It's got sharp quills and claws that can rip through mail like loose cotton, hence the name. You imagine the creature in your head. Such a beast would certainly be a great danger to a community of farmers unused to fighting. And I guess the obvious question. Dame Mildred nods, her expression a combination of pain and annoyance. Normally, I'd go myself, or, barring that, I'd ask a favor of one of the other knights, but I'm afraid we must be elsewhere. The knight looks out the window that shows the keep's courtyard. His Grace, Duke Leofric, has ordered us northwards to escort the tax wagon from Halliford, which will likely take us a week or more. With the increased bandits' attacks of late, I'm afraid that such a duty is far more important than any personal requests I may have. Dame Mildred hesitates for a moment as she turns back to you. She takes a deep sigh. I am unsure how you are suited for this kind of work, but if you want to be an adventurer, you must grow used to such expendities. Dame Mildred steps forward, her hands on her hips. Will you take the job or not? A real adventuring job? Innocents to rescue? A powerful aristocrat offering a hefty reward? How could you say no? There's still plenty of daylight left, enough for you to get to Summersea by sunset if you are lucky. Still, it would certainly not be remiss for you to spend a few minutes browsing the now opening stalls. After all, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared for anything, and you could still make it to the Summersea by sunset if you don't linger too long. How much money we got? We still got like 67. We have no armored and no ranged weapons, so let's see if we can figure out a weapon. You head down to the markets that serve the soldiers and knights of the Duke of Kendrickstone. Nestled against the high walls of the keep, they're easy enough to find. Even if the sight of thick stone fire bricks, the choking smog of the forges, and the acrid stink of tanning fluids didn't give it away, the names of the street themselves, Steel Lane, Blade Alley, Foe Slayer Road, pointedly confirm that you are in the right place. After a few minutes of browsing, you find some things that may be of use to you. One of the smaller tanners has made a side business of selling scraps of leather as handicrafts. One in particular catches your eye. A well-made sling, perfect for hurtling small rocks or lead bullets at distant foes. The tanner asks 50 silver for it. Most of the products of the smiths on Blade Alley are far beyond your meager means. However, one sword is within your reach. It is notched and rust-spotted, true, but the steel still seems good, and it fits well in your hand. The smith asks 125 silver for it. Obviously, a coat of mail is well out of your price range. Even the cheapest hawkbirks start at 15 or 20 gold. Ooh, geez. You could, however, get yourself an acton, or arming doublet. Made of quilted cotton and reinforced with boiled leather panels, an acton does not provide much protection, but it may be enough to turn a killing blow into a flesh wound. You quickly note the selection of such coats, starting at 100 silvers or so. Lastly, nestled in between the market stalls and the gate to the keep is a small wine shop. Its owner bellows to all who can hear the virtues of its most expensive product, a skin of fine Khazari lion milk, a liquor known for its smoothness and strength. For 30 silvers, you can buy it and alleviate the strains of the long road to Summersea. So, what do you buy? Well, shit, we can't afford very much. We can either buy the lion milk or the sling. Alleviate the strains of the long road to Summersea. We're going to get the lion milk. I came for the sling, and that's not what I'm getting. You haggle back and forth with the merchant for a few minutes and convince him to drop the price a full 7 silvers. Oh, hey, we got it for 23. Nice. You hand over your silvers in return for the full skin of liquor. You uncork the skin as you make your way to the gate, hoping that your purchase was worth it. The liquor has an aroma that you've never smelt before, sweet and soft, with an edge of what seems like anise. Anise? You take an experimental drink, and the stuff goes down smoothly enough that you don't even notice the burning in your throat until a moment later. By the time you reach the road for Mercy, you're already a little tipsy. Oh, beautiful. Still, your spirits cannot help but be buoyed by the exotic drink as you walk the long road south. Thankfully, you make it all the way to the fortress without being accosted or delayed. The sun still peeks through the trees when you walk out of the forest and into the clearing into the towers of Summersea. Awesome. We made the walk without issues. The fortress of Summersea is quite unlike anything you've ever seen before. Its primary structures are 2 gigantic stone towers, one looming over each side of the road. The stone curtain wall, twice the height of the soldiers atop it, surrounds each tower and its associated outbuildings. Instead of blocking the road, the fortress proceeds over it. A covered walkway arches between the 2 towers, leaving the road further south in its shadow. Further travel on the main road would take you into the border marshes, a vast expanse of southern scrublands and finally, the Empire of Corlandis. Instead, you take a left, on a smaller divergent path, towards one of the gates that cuts into the curtain walls. Two soldiers are waiting at the gate, both spears in hand. Both wear kettled helms and surcoats bearing the familiar sigil of Summercy, the same one worn by Dame Mildred. "Hold!" one of them shouts. "State your business." "I am here to answer the Baroness' request for aid," you reply. One of the soldiers leans forward to take a closer look. "Are you now? If you're a knight of Kendrickstone, where's your horse? Your armor? Your squire?" You shake your head. "I'm not a knight, just an adventurer." You see the expression on both soldiers fall flat at that. They were expecting a trained soldier with decades of experience. They got you. Still, disappointed or no, they'd try their best to make you feel welcome. After a short inspection, they escort you into the fortress. The yard of the eastern tower of Summercy cannot be much larger than the market square of a small town, yet it is filled with men, women, and children, all wearing the earthen hues of farmers and yeomen. Yeomen? Well, it's an ancient language here that I'm not familiar with. Even in the dying light of the sunset, you can see that the expressions of despair and anger in their faces. There are perhaps 3 or 4 dozen in all, enough to people a small farming hamlet? I guess. Enough to people a small farming hamlet. Your escort tells you that these are the folks who fled from the Razorclaw's attacks. The 2 guards lead you past the courtyard into the one thicker walled towers. There, you are given a simple evening meal of bread, ale, and cheese. A bed is provided for you in the guard room, cramped, but clean and soft enough for a good night's rest. The next morning, you wake before the sun has even risen. All around you, most of the guards are still asleep. As far as you can tell, only a minimal amount of dawn watch is still up and about. You have no doubt that neither Dame Mildred nor her lady mother would approve of you dawdling about the fortress for several days as the Razorclaw continues its attacks. However, perhaps it would be best to gather some information before heading out? Let's just question the farmers, because the farmers would have the recounts of it. We don't need to talk to the Baroness until after we've solved the problem. It's not difficult to find someone in the tower courtyard to answer your questions. Those seeking refuge from the Razorclaws are still there, huddled for warmth around iron braziers, wool blankets and shawls wrapped tight to ward off the early morning chill. When you step out into their midst, some of them stand and gather around you. "Are you here to kill the beasts?" one asks. "I would really like to go home soon," says another. Word of your arrival has spread quickly, it seems. Soon the displaced farmers form a ring around you. Men, women, children. They stand in silence, anticipating what you're going to say next. Will you ask them anything? What time do the attacks... what kind of beast is it? Let's start with that. The farmers mutter among themselves. "None of us have seen it for ourselves," one of the women answers. "But the Baroness, she took a look at the wounds that cut Geoff the miller. She said the cuts were too deep for anything but a Razorclaw." The others around her nod solemnly. It seems that the Baroness' expertise carries a lot of weight around these parts when it comes to monster attacks. When did the attacks begin? A man steps forward, grey-haired and stooped with age. "It was a week ago, wasn't it? When they found poor Geoff out in the woods?" The man shakes his head sadly. "Cut open like a hog, he was." "Hold on a moment," another voice calls out. "One of my cows disappeared 3 days before that. We had found him picked clean, not far from where we found Geoff. More voices speak up, citing other incidents, and the strange disappearance and unlikely sightings, all of them within the last 2 weeks. Soon the cacophony of competing voices is impossible to untangle. It takes you a minute to get everyone quiet again, so within 2 weeks, nice. What time? Surprisingly enough, that question gets no solid answers. Some say they saw the beast slinking around at the edge of the forest at noon. Others assert that the creature would only be spotted at sunrise or sunset. One man pipes up, "It must attack at night. That's what Maud's thought." At the mention of the name, a few farmers shuffle back, looking over their shoulders. "Who's Maud?" "Oh, who's Maud?" you ask. The farmers hesitate. A few of them open their mouths, but shut them again without speaking. Finally, a child steps forward, wide eyes gleaming under a mop of red hair. "She's my ma! She stayed behind with a few of the others," he declares exuberantly. "They're gonna slay the beast when it attacks again." One of the other children quickly drags the boy back. The man who first spoke shakes his head. Pay no mind to him, or these fools who stayed behind. I only pray that they don't get in your way. All right, well, let's roll out. The farmers slowly disperse to let you pass. It still seems some of them are in a state of shock. You can understand why. It cannot be easy having their livelihoods taken away from them by a sudden disaster. Still, one of them is able to give you directions to the site of the last attacks, where, she hopes, a group of desperate holdouts still live. What now? We roll out. You decide to head to the countryside in search of Razorclaw. Following your instructions, you walk down a narrow dirt path, barely large enough for an ox cart to roll across. The ground here is raw and newly cleared. Stumps still litter the fields, and the clusters of houses you see seem rough, almost unfinished. The buildings, stables, feed pens, and barns, common in more settled countries, are absent. This is land newly tamed, and it shows. The few people you encounter are mostly farmers, and you can sense their fear. Some look over their shoulders as they work the fields. Others stand and watch nervously, pitchforks and staves in hand. Still others stay conspicuously close to the soldiers patrolling the outskirts of their settlements. Then, maybe an hour after noon, you pass the last nervous pair of settlers and cross into a land without people. The fields here are deserted. The buildings, as rough as they are, seem even more incomplete without men and women and children around them. Finally, you come to a clutch of huts and cottages at the end of the dirt path. It is only when you get close that you see the crouched shapes in the shadows. "Hold!" a voice shouts forcefully, trying to hide the quaver of nerves. The shadows shift. A figure appears from the cluster of houses, then another, and then another. Soon there are half a dozen, wearing heavy woolen cloaks over their yeoman's garb, weapons at the ready. Weapons? Now that you look closely, you can see the farmers' primitive arms for what they are. Belt knives tilt to staves, fist-sized axes suitable for chopping wood, makeshift pole arms made from scythe blades and pruning hooks. These are the weapons of a desperate militia, not true fighting force. The woman who first called at you, tall, straight-backed, and golden-haired, approaches you. "What's your business here?" she demands, her hands conspicuously straying to the hatchet at her belt. "I'm an adventurer from Kendrickstone," you reply. "The Baroness sent me here to deal with the Razorclaw." The woman gives you a defiant look and replies as if your very presence insults her. "Well, go back and tell her ladyship that we can deal with the Razorclaw ourselves. We can defend our own homes just fine." One of the men in front of you shakes his head. He has the same features as the woman, though he is stockier. "Hold on a moment, Maud," he interjects. "This one looks like a fighter. Are you a fighter?" You shrug. "Sort of, I guess. I've seen a few fights." The man eyes you for a moment and nods. "Aye, then you should be able to handle yourself. Every pair of strong arms helps." The woman sighs. "Very well. My name is Maud, and this is my brother Stefan. We plan to fight the Razorclaw when it attacks tonight. Will you fight with us?" Why do you think it will attack tonight? It's attacked us every night, Stephen replies. Sometimes it's just a sheep or a cow. Other times it's been one of us. It's been like this every night. You nod. Including last night, you ask? Stephen nods, expression pained, and replies with obvious reluctance. Aye, it attacked last night. He looks away for a moment. We hid. It killed a cow. We were unprepared last night, Maud interjects. This time we'll make the bastard bleed for each life he's taken. We've got a plan, but maybe we can use another fighter to help us out. Will you fight with us, yay or nay? What's your plan? I'm not gonna... Our plan is simple, Maud replies. First, we'll tie up one of our sheep between the two cottages. Then we'll all hide until nightfall. When the Razor Claw sees the sheep, it will go for it. And then, Ma smacks a closed fist into an open palm, we'll jump it. We'll keep it occupied while my brother spears it. Stephen smiles as he hefts a weapon, an ash-hafted spear, the only proper weapon in the lot. I can do it. I spent 6 years in the Baroness's retinue, and I know how to use this, he says confidently. That thing comes out, and I'll stick the pointy end right into its belly. He won't like it up in him, no, he won't. The others within earshot cheer. You wonder if any of them will be cheering once they're face to face with the snarling beast 4 times their size. The farmers around you are clearly not fighters. Some will hold their improvised weapons like the farming implements they once were. When the time comes, will they hold? These people might not stand much of a chance without your help. Then again, you might not stand much of a chance against the Razor Claw by yourself without theirs. So, will you fight with us? Maud asks again. I don't like that idea at all, but do we... My intuition says it's not actually a Razor Claw, and if we go hunting against it, we'll find something not Razor Claw-ish. On the other hand, if we go off and try and hunt it on its own and their plan works, we're SOL. I'd rather hunt it on my... We're going to hunt it alone. You really think you can take on that beast yourself? Maud demands, incredulous. I've seen what that beast can do to people. It'll tear you to pieces if you go at it alone. Stephen nods in agreement. The only way to take out this beast is to work as a team. Please, he pleads. You're chasing a fool's hope. I don't want to put any of you in danger. That's... Stephen steps forward. But Maud places a hand on his shoulder to stop him. Let the girl go, Stephen. She's made up her choice. Stephen opens his mouth, but a look from his sister leaves any further objections stillborn. Good luck, Maud says as you leave. We'll be waiting here, awaiting your return. If you fail to track the beast, our offer to fight alongside us still stands. You nod and turn towards the forest where the Razor Claw awaits. So, our subterfuge is shit. I suspect we won't be able to find him. But who knows? The forest is thin at first. Bands of trees stand alone, and the ground beneath your feet is denuded of bush and branch. All of the low-growing plants have been cut away for firewood, for thatching, and for 100 other things a human settlement must have from the forest. As you continue deeper, maybe 20 paces from the tree line, the ground becomes choked with underbrush. Twigs and thorns pull and tear at your clothes as you try to probe deeper into the forest, but you can get no further than 3 or 4 paces in. The foliage is just too thick. You try again at some other points, but you are again stymied in your efforts to penetrate the underbush, covering the forest floor. You find a few errant clues, some broken twigs, some disturbed branches, a few marks on a tree trunk, but your lack of woodscraft means you cannot tell the trail of quarry from that of any other forest creature. You search for hours until the sun begins to droop and the day begins to darken. With little chance of finding the Razor Claw before sunset, you give up and head dejectedly back to the hamlet, where Maud and her ragtag band of fighters await. You return to the hamlet just as the sun is sinking beneath the horizon. In its center is a surly and bleating sheep, tied to a stout wooden stake hammered into the ground. Maud and Stephen offer little comment on your failure. You can see in their eyes it was nothing they didn't expect. Instead, they share with you their plain supper and find a place to hide for the night's ambush. Then, as the last of the farmers finish their meal, Maud orders you all into positions. You get into your hiding place, weapon at the ready, and begin to await the appearance of your quarry. You stay still as the sun sinks under the horizon, the air grows chilly, and the stars reveal themselves at the night sky. It is difficult to see anything. No torches to give away your position, but the night's near total darkness means it is almost impossible to see anything beyond arm's reach. The only evidence that your compatriots have not fled are the quiet, shallow sounds of their breathing, barely noticeable among the ambient sounds of the night. Suddenly, there is a sudden sound of rustling leaves from the forest. You grip your weapon tighter as you feel your heart begin to pound. Your quarry is close, and you can feel it. The new sound grows louder and louder, the rapid beating of heavy feet against the ground. Then there is a low growl, and before you know it, you see the razor claw, a beast the size of a war horse, its spines glistening in the faint starlight as it leaps to the center of the settlement. The sheep goes down with little more than a loud, strangled bleat as the powerfully muscled beast tears into it with its claws. Now! The farmers burst into action. From one side, Marge charges in, a cry of rage on her lips, and her hatchet raised high above her head. From the other, Stephen rushes forward, spear held low and at the ready. More dark shapes join in, their makeshift weapons at hand. Will you join them? We'll blast it with magic. Let us blast it with magic. We charge it. What kind of weapon do we have? We just have a stick, right? A quarterstaff. I wonder if it'd be better to hang out and do a killing blow. 50-50. Let's go with charging. Charge! You spring from your hiding place, staff at the ready, and charge in with the others. The ground is uneven, the night is dark. Only the shouts of your compatriots and the reflected glow of the starry sky give you the faintest indications of where you are. Ahead, you see Maud, her hatchets flashing as she swings at the razor claw and leaps away, hoping to bait the beast into attacking her. From the other side, Stephen lunges forward, his spear thrusting forward. The razor claw rolls aside. Something must have tipped it off. The beast spins around in a single perfect twirling step. As the creature assails the spearman, it exposes its belly to you, a near perfect opening. You raise your staff and bring it down over your head. You raise your staff high above your head and bring it down on the razor claw's exposed side with all of your strength. A shock travels down your arms as the stout wood meets the razor claw's body with a meaty thwack. The beast staggers under your blow, but instead of falling, it turns more quickly than it would have thought possible, its terrible claws darting towards you like lightning. Oh shit. You feel your leg collapse out from under you as the beast's claws tear deep into your thigh. Suddenly unbalanced, you can barely move, let alone fight. You are still struggling to stand up when another mighty blow strikes you from the other side, and the lights of the stars is washed out by bottomless black. Wait, did we just die? Oh, okay, we're not dead. You awake not to the darkness of night, but to the brave glare of the sun streaming through a window in the darkened chamber. Your head is still aching. You sit up. You are in a bed, in a room with stone walls, the fortress of some mercy. You feel hungry, thirsty, and nauseous all at once. You are covered in sweat. You are also not alone. You've woken up, Isabel, observes Dame Mildred from the other side of the room. Good. About time. What happened? You ask, still weak as you prop yourself up. The razor claw happened, of course. Dame Mildred deadpans. You're damn lucky those farmers were there. They fought off the beast and dragged you there. Well, the ones that survived did. My mother was able to get her healer to attend to you, but you've been recovering ever since. You are full of questions. How long have I been out? The knight shrugs. 4 days, maybe 5. I came when I was given the news of your failure upon my return from the north. You nod silently. 4 days. That explains why Dame Mildred is here. It also means that the Razorclaw has attacked at least 3 more nights, perhaps striking settlements and outlying farms that were not evacuated. The potential cost of your failure chews on your stomach from the inside. Even so, you have more questions. What happened to the farmers? Dame Mildred frowns. I spoke to the 2 who brought you in. Your heart drops. There were 6 of them when you first met. It doesn't take much guesswork to imagine what happened to the others. Oh, shit. They said they were told to take your body and carry you back here, the knight continues. The rest stayed behind to cover your escape. A noble decision, however foolish. What happens now? Oh, uh-oh. The knight purses her lips. Now? Now you rest. As soon as you are well enough to travel, I will take you back to Kendrickstone. You protest immediately. But nothing, Dame Mildred snaps. You've already proven yourself unable to complete this task, which I so foolishly offered to you. She pauses, takes a breath, and begins again in a calmer voice. That is not an insult, girl. That is a statement of fact. You were not strong enough to best the Razorclaw, and your days unconscious have weakened you further. I will not see you throw your life away in a vain attempt to prove me wrong. The Knight of Kendrickstone steps back and looks out the window, towards Kendrickstone. I'll check back on you again tomorrow. Hopefully you'll be up and walking by then. Okay, let's just take a quick look. We're in perfect health. Right, I'm beginning to think that's not updated yet. You feel much stronger the next morning, after a meal and a full night's sleep. When Dame Mildred drops by again, you are indeed up and about. With no further reason to remain in Summersea, the 2 of you depart that morning. The trip back to Kendrickstone is an easy one. The 2 of you encounter no other travelers, and you make good progress, reaching the gates within a few hours after noon. Here, the knight leaves you to return to her own duties at the keep. You, on the other hand, make your way back to the Blazing Sword Inn. You spend most of the evening picking at your meal and reminiscing of your failure. You're still picking at your food when you see the stout form of Frida, the innkeeper, looming behind you. You all right? She asks. You shake your head at her and give her a brief overview of the last few days' events. The innkeeper nods when you finish. I know that feeling. Failure's always the bitterest the first time. She sits down on the bench next to you. The Blazing Swords Inn isn't the first run I've in, you know, she says almost offhandedly. I learned my trade in my father's inn. When he died, I took over, and I thought I knew everything there was to know. She chuckles, bitterly, sadly. It took me less than 2 years to go out of business. When that happened, I felt much like you do now. You nod, and the innkeeper continues. I swore off this sort of work for a while, traveled a bit, met Rob. It was only when we considered settling down that I took up trying to run an inn again, this time with all the lessons that I'd learned the first time round. And that's how you started the Blazing Sword? You ask. Frida shakes her head and laughs again. No, that second inn failed too, but I learned, and I took those lessons to a new building. The one you're sitting in now. She stops and looks around, at the roaring hearth and a few late drinkers still in the common room. Just because you failed at something doesn't mean you're not cut out for it. Learn from your mistakes, do better next time, and you'll make a name for yourself yet. The innkeeper stands back up and graces you with one last smile. Just remember to pay your rent on time. The innkeeper's words stay with you long after the hearth fire dies and the last few folk in the common room drift off to bed. Will you be truly able to learn from your mistakes and do better next time, or are you just not cut out for this adventuring foolishness? That is the question that plagues you deep in the night. Still, you are too tired to stay awake forever, and eventually you fall asleep, thinking of the opportunities still to come. Well, we got our asses handed to us there, but hey, we learn and we'll do better next time, I promise. Till next time, guys. Later.